everybody, welcome back to another episode of God Built This Podcast. I'm your host Maxine and we're on episode 204. I'm trying to hold back a laugh, so that's why if it sounds like I'm like holding a breath. I have so much of an update, it's hilarious. I think maybe I'm a fucking joke. Maybe I'm just a joke. I know I said I don't want to go back to teaching, anything but teaching. But a series of events took place that made me realize I'll just go back. So let's start from the very beginning. And you know what's funny? Actually, at the time of this recording, I'm actually supposed to be at my previous job that I'm going to tell you about, how I said I'm done, I quit, and I said, okay, sure, I'll give you a 2-week notice and I'll work for the 2 weeks until you guys find someone else. I'm actually supposed to be at that site right now, and I'm not there, clearly. But we'll get to that because, like, I don't really need to be there. First of all, there's 3 or 4 kids, and there's already another guy present at that location working that job. And you know what's so annoying? And I'll go from the beginning, but it's so annoying because he's just, remember I call him Wobble? It's because he's a bigger guy. And he wobbles when you know how some people just like wobble? Like, but I noticed it to be a thing for like bigger weights, like heavier weight people. We'll get to that for another time, but no offense. Anyway, he's like, if you're not going to come in, just let me know. Yeah, just give me a heads up. And I said, yeah, and I did it too. And shit, am I shitty for that? I just don't care. Like, first of all, Wobble, there's 3 kids. You need that much supervision for, like, come on, like, you'll be fine. Like, it's not like we had like a plethora of students and he just couldn't keep a hand on them. No, it was literally 2 kids, if that. There were times when he just had 1 student and I had 2 students in my space. So, child, okay, let's get to the beginning. Okay, I left you guys off on the meeting that was scheduled to take place post my email regarding my request for clarity. So boom, I had the meeting. I went to the site and had the meeting, and lots of things were discussed. So it started off with them the director, she's asking me how is the site, like how's it going? And you know, with these like open-ended questions, like I don't know if I should have came in with this like with this take charge attitude. Like, I don't know if I should have just like started the conversation off like, okay, well, thank you guys for meeting. Let's go through this list. Like, I don't know if I should have done that. And obviously I can't go back in time. But I wonder though, like, you know, if I were to have taken charge, would that have been inappropriate? I don't know. I just like to be mindful of how I come off for the most part. Like, I never want to come off too aggressive at the very least. You know, sometimes I could come off aggressive, but I do it in ways that's like expressive, right? Like, I'm dramatic in my speech and in my opinions and stuff like that. But when it comes to like a professional work meeting, I just like to sit back a little and let you take charge, and then I'll speak when I'm supposed to. Like, I'll speak when I speak, not when I'm supposed to speak, but like when I speak. Anyway, so she started off by doing that, and so it was kind of like small talk, I guess. Then this other lady who was present in the meeting, she got into the email, and she said how she printed out my contract. So like, I guess that's her like this evidence, right? This proof of evidence. And she went into explaining how in the contract it did state specifically like billable hours, and that language is not familiar to me. Billable hours, like what are you talking about? Like what? And I think it's also because I've always been on a salary. Like it's salary or nothing. But considering that was a part-time position, obviously a salary, I mean, I guess our salaries present in part-time positions? Like, is that, I don't think so, right? Either way, I'm not familiar with that language, billable. And so what I should have, and look, I always look at like, what could I have done better, right? So I was looking back at it and I'm like, dang, I should have asked the question, what do you mean by billable hours? Like, that contract specifically stated that, and instead of me accepting it, instead of me just like being so quick to accept it, I should have asked questions more. And there were times when I did ask questions, right? Like, specifically, what does my role entail? And in the contract it does say joining the after school program that I was doing, having tutoring services that I didn't do because that wasn't offered, or nothing was happening with that, nothing was communicated with that, and professional development, and nothing was happening with that either. And my confusion was, and I brought it up in the meeting, I was like, I was hoping that I would have had more opportunities of working more on the like creation side of the scale, as far as creating the materials and delivering materials and presenting materials, rather than having more student-facing work experiences. And that was what I did communicate in our initial interview, and they were aware of that. So they were explaining how, and they did apologize for any miscommunication. So, I mean, the energy was light. Like, it wasn't like heavy and disrespectful at any point. So I do appreciate that. But she just explained how there's a purpose behind being more like centered in working directly with students, because they wanted to just see how well their products were being experienced during these times. And I guess they wanted my expertise on that and yada yada yada. But I don't know. So anyway, so that we talked about the hours thing. And I said how I did communicate during our initial interview that I wanted 25 to 30 hours weekly. And one of the ladies, she said how she said that she couldn't guarantee that. And she says she thought she said that earlier, and maybe she did, but I just was under the impression, because I said it, that it will be met, and it wasn't met. But the point is, I feel like there was still some pockets of lack of communication, no communication, miscommunication, because there were times when I had to ask for, what are my hours? What's exactly going on here, right? I had to wait the day of to get communicated to about said hours. Like, so there were times when like the communication was just like very last minute, and that's just not how I operate. So I don't regret sending the email and having the meeting. And I feel like things got into more perspective in that moment, because they were just telling me what I just didn't care to be a part of anymore. Like, I was sitting in that meeting, and then what I thought was interesting was they were presenting different opportunities for me to be interested in staying in the role. They were saying like, we know you have a great interest in doing more of the like administrative side of things and the professional development side of things. And they were talking about all the times before when they've done that. But again, it wasn't consistent. So the director, she was talking about how like there's different seasons in the year in which it's more focused on professional development. They'll travel to Florida, they'll do sales, and they'll do like different pockets of things, but it's only at a limited time. It's inconsistent. It's not going to be a day-to-day thing, and it's just not like reliable. And they're also bringing up, oh, well, do you do social media? Like, we could do social media. Like, they're talking about how they want to build their social media page, and they were showing me this box of their products and their goods and how they've been selling it to different clients, and like they were just saying a lot of stuff, right? But it was just, oh, we could do this and we could do, and then we could do, it was just like all these extra things that they're just adding into thin air that I do recall them mentioning in our previous interview, but it's still not structured. Like, it's just talk, right? It is not to say that I don't believe that they've done it, right? Because obviously the product is here, and obviously they're sharing their specific stories and anecdotes regarding those different areas, but it still wasn't concrete. Like, specifically, what is the plan? What does that look like? What's the structure? None of that was communicated. None of that was said. And that's what I just really had a hard time with. Like, y'all just saying a lot of words, but what's the schedule? What are the hours? So anyway, it ended with me still stating that, you know, I'm leaning towards what I want to do, and what I want to do is not this. I didn't say it like that, but I did say I appreciate all these ideas or aspects that you guys are bringing forth to my attention, but I am not interested in working more so, or I don't have much of a desire working like face to face with students, I guess. Anyway, I said it like that, but I did say, I'm processing everything, right? And she requested for me to, as soon as I know whether or not I would like to continue in the role, just let her know. So, but I knew at that point, yeah, I'm done. Mind you, again, it's another situation where I don't have anything secured, or I didn't have anything secured, and yet I'm ready to leave this job. So I already had in my head, okay, I'm definitely going to quit. I'll send them an email confirming X, Y, and Z, and I'll just word it as, and which I did. I word it as, thank you so much for the opportunity. After further reflection and after our discussion, I realized that this is not the right fit for me because it doesn't align with my career goals. Thank you for the opportunity. Or no, thank you for your understanding. That's how I ended it. Mind you, I purposely didn't state anything regarding 2-week notice because I'm done. Like, I don't want to notice you of anything, bitch. Like, we could be done and move on. Like, I don't have to still be here until y'all figure it out. It's not that much to figure out. Like, you have Wobble still present and able to do his job without my presence. Like, I think he got it. I think he's fine. So anyway, okay, so right after the meeting, no, I wanted to say something. Anyway, I guess we'll move on. So we're done with that part. Right after the meeting, right, I go into my car, and I immediately get a phone call from a former coworker of mine who's become just a trusted, just a nice person, a friend. She's great. Anyway, we left our previous campus basically, well, at the same time, really. We both didn't return to that campus, and we both was figuring it out separately. And we would periodically check in with each other throughout the summer, checking in to see how we were doing and how's it going. And she was going through it as well, just like emotionally, of just not really landing something yet and feeling just the grunt of that. And I was sharing my emotions. So like we connected. But I remember prior to that moment, like towards the end of the school year, we had she had a gathering at her house, and I went, and there was a couple of people there as well. It was a really, really good time. And we was just she was telling me how wherever she goes, like if she was able to land something before me, then she would bring me on as best as she can, right? As much as it's within her control. And it was just something I really appreciate that she said, like, oh, that's so nice. And I could tell that she's someone of her word. So it's not like I felt like it was just jibble jabble or whatever. So I'm like, okay, cool. Anyway, I got a phone call from her, and she's telling me about the position that she landed, and she's been working at this new campus from the same employer, because the school that I work at is a big organization and they have multiple campuses. And so she got a job at this new campus. I mean, it's not a new campus, but like it's another campus at a different campus. And they're looking for an English 2 teacher. And I was the first one that came to her mind. And so she called me about it, and she said how she already recommended me to the principal. And she was like, look, I know, because she already knew what the fuck it was. Like, she already knew why I left the previous campus. There's no shot to that campus, but it was just because I was ready to move forward from classroom teaching and move into leadership positions. You know, I've said this so many times. And she was already aware of that. I've spoken to her about that very, very intensively. So she was aware, and when she was telling me about it, she was saying, like, look, I know you don't want to go back in the classroom. It's funny how you had to start the conversation off like that. Look, I know you don't want to, type of thing. But she was explaining how the culture at that campus was just more beneficial, and there are examples and opportunities of career advancement, and when I say examples, I mean there's been a number of teachers who were able to promote or be promoted into leadership positions. And just the way that she described everything made me feel rest assured. It made me feel like, you know what? I'll do it. Like, I'll just go back and do it. This seems like a great opportunity. The timing was awesome. And I just felt like it was aligned, right? Like, I left that last meeting from that job, and I already had it in my head to send them an email in an hour or two in regards to me quitting. Yet, I didn't have anything necessarily lined up yet. And then I get a call from my former coworker who already had put me on to the principal at the other campus and was putting, just recommending me. And the way that she talked about it, yay, he's gonna come here. Okay, cool. The way that he talked about it, the way that she talked about it was very comforting. It made me feel like, okay, this seems like this is definitely a good plan. Like, this is definitely the next step. And then I was also thinking about things logistically. And I know I get on here talking about, like, pursue your happiness, right? And I still believe to pursue that. And I'm not going to say but. I want to say but. But I'm going to say and because it's in conjunction, right? Like, it's together. And I think it's important to just look at I think it's important to change your perspective. And I feel like I was just so, like, adamant about it's either this or it's not, right? I was just so adamant about that, and that makes me maybe impulsive. I've gotten called that before, and I roll my eyes, but I do sense that sometimes I can be impulsive. I get that. But I also just, like, I'm just such a staunch believer in going towards what you believe in, right? Going towards these passions that you have, these dreams and goals that you have. And, maybe it's not the most responsible to leave one job without the security of another. I get that. But I also, I like who I am, right? I like that I'm so headstrong, and I like that I'm able to bend and realize, okay, this makes sense logistically. Like, I like that about me, so I wouldn't change that. I think, though, what I can improve on is my perspective. And I get so caught up on, I'm done with working with kids. I'm through. And it's really no shot to the kids. It's just like, I was just so ready to just move on to new experience. I was so ready to just work in this title of a leadership position. And though I'm still interested in that, and that is still a goal, I just also need to just appreciate more. I guess I don't know, like, and maybe it's something, because there was a lot of downloads that I was receiving from like just a series of events that took place the past like 3 or 2 days. Like this whole week has been just like done, just like ready to move on and on, right? I had an interview on Monday for this instructional designer position that was via Zoom. And I thought that interview was kind of weird. It was online, like I said, on Zoom, and it was just very like straight to the point. Like they didn't even, how typically you start off a meeting or an interview? It's tell me about yourself, right? And throughout this journey of me applying to different jobs and preparing for interviews, I literally have my responses drafted out. Like I script them out. Like it's to the point where it's like, do I even know myself anymore? And I do know myself, but I get so caught up in making sure what I think is being articulated well. And that is just, the whole point of preparing for interviews, because you want to present yourself in a way that is most received or better received. So anyway, they didn't do the whole, let me tell you about yourself. They just got straight to these 14 questions that they had, and they had a presentation. They had this PowerPoint presented on the screen, on the shared Zoom screen, and I had to prepare documents to share and present during my interview, which I did prepare for, but it just, I don't know, like the feedback was just, there was no like moments in the interview where like, oh, I really like that. Like I've had pretty much all of my interviews, I was met with a response immediately after my answer, right? A response being, oh, that's great. I didn't think about it. Like people were receiving what I was saying. Yet that interview was just like, okay, next question. So I'm like, I don't know if I got that. I don't know. But I did read somewhere on YouTube that people who've had hard to read interviews did get the job. So like sometimes it works not as you plan, right? Like you may have a great interview, oh my gosh, you're gelling with the supervisor, the boss, everything's going well, and then boom, you still don't get the position. They move forward with other candidates. Yet the other job interview that you feel like you didn't ace, that you feel like you struggled in, you got offered the position. So like things don't, and here's the thing, what I've learned, another download, like things don't go as planned. I mean, did I solve the world war? Like things don't go as planned. And it's become more of a realization to me that although I may have these plans and I hate to even say that because it's not like you shouldn't plan, but I also feel like, what's the point anymore? Is that morbid? No, but like really, like what's the point? Just for things to be disappointed, just for you to be disappointed if things don't go as planned. Like honestly, when I got the call from my coworker, she's a current coworker now. But when I got the call from her about the position, the teaching position, I was grateful for it, and I just knew it was going to be the next step. Like, okay, let me just go ahead and apply and put my best foot forward and, land this job. I was sad. I was sad about it because I was like, I'm going back to where I started. I'm going back to what I left, actually. I'm going back to what I literally left, and I'm picking up where I left off. Now, technically, it's a little different because it's a different campus. And, assuming that everything that was discussed will pan out, this campus is an opportunity where I can experience more advancement. So I do appreciate that, but I was just upset because just internally, before I even had the interview, the in-person interview and the phone interview, I was just upset because I was like, what was the point? Like, why, doing all of this just to go back to where I left, where I started or where I left or where I just quit. I just felt kind of like maybe a failure, or I don't know what the word is, but I know this is, things are never linear. Nothing is linear. Relationships aren't linear. Your career isn't linear. Grief isn't linear. Like, nothing is fucking linear. So, like, the whole idea of go about life like this, it's like you follow a script, or you go after something and you have this plan and vision for yourself, and it's like it doesn't work out, or like it doesn't work in the order that you thought it would. And maybe it'll happen for me. Like, maybe I'll come on this podcast a couple episodes from now and I'll say I got this assistant principal position, or I got this director position, and I believe eventually the day will come, but I just wish I had control over the day, and I think I'm just like, I know I'm controlling, I know that, but how else can I be? like what else are we talking about? Like people like to say, oh, well, go with the flow, but have a plan. Like, what the fuck? I can't. What are we doing? Like, when it comes to things that I feel like I should have, like, I feel like I can't have much control over, like, personal relationships, right? Like, I can't control another person. I can't control how, or like, I'm gonna make you love me by the 30th of this month. Like, I can't control that, right? Sure, I can control the boundaries of a relationship, right? I can control how you speak to me. I can set the boundaries for that. Like, if you speak to me disrespectfully, I can let you know that's not okay. And hopefully you respect that and we move forward. But if you don't respect that, then I move forward without you. Cool. But like, when it comes to careers, like, you could put your best foot forward and prepare and revamp your resume and make connections however you can and re-update over and over your LinkedIn. And it still doesn't work out. Like, it just, nothing's guaranteed. That's what I'm saying. Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. And I remember watching this YouTube video of this woman. She's talking about 9 signs that will help you know you landed the job, that you aced the interview, and they will give you the offer. And she's saying all these signs, right? Like, if they start saying you instead of a person, right? So if they start saying, when you take on this job, you'll realize or when you come in, to work every day, you'll be checking in with said person, so that's what she's saying. Like, when they start using you, the word you, that's how you know they want you for the position. Another sign she said was, what she said, she was like, if they walk you through the office, if they show you around, take you a tour, that's how you know you got the job. If they ask for professional references, that's how you know you got the job. Y'all, none of that guarantees anything. All of that has happened in some of the applications that I've put in for different jobs previously. I sent in my professional references, 3 of them. I was hearing, you are great for this role, I could just give you the position right now. And like, I remember the first interview of the process, the guy said, you're obviously great. You're qualified for the position. I could give you the position right now. And then he said that there is a second interview, and though I aced that interview and they did have me go into the final round, which was a professional references, I still didn't get the job. Like, they still decided to go with someone else. Like, there was no, that was it. Like, it doesn't, and that's the point. Like, it doesn't guarantee anything. And I think it's important to not ruminate on all these quote unquote signs that you got it when everything could have gone right. And then boom, they still move forward with another candidate, or they decide that we don't need to fulfill this role right now. Nepotism may play a part. Like, there's so many things that come into play for when a job is not offered. Anyway, I say all this to say, I think, I've learned so much about perspective. What else? About, being grateful, having gratitude. And I don't know, I guess being open, that's what it is. Changing my perspective, really, and being open to, like, look, don't just shut your door on teaching, because had I still said, no, I'm not gonna go back, I could have shot myself in the foot, because I wouldn't have known that, wow, this is a campus that really progressed their teachers into leadership positions, and this is a great campus for me to be at to get there. And if I was still stubborn in thinking, no, I'm never going back to the classroom, then I would have lost an opportunity to finally advance into a leadership position that I've been talking about. And you know what? It could happen as quickly as that, right? Like, it doesn't have to be a full year of completion of me in a teaching role. It could literally, because I've seen cases where you'll start off teaching. Like, I've seen people where, I started off as a teacher on this campus, and boom, 3 months in, an assistant principal position opens up, and you're the best candidate for it, right? Or, things just worked out, and now in 3 months of you working as initially a teacher there, you're now in this leadership position. So, look, all I'm saying is, I'm opening my mind, I'm opening my heart, and I'm allowing things to just flow instead of being so staunch with it. And this has been a great lesson for me. And honestly, I'm happy to breathe again. Anyways, then I get to the part of, okay, so I applied for a said position, got a phone call literally that day from the recruiter at this from this employer, and later on that day got a phone call from the principal, had a phone interview, and then today, at the time of this recording, I had my interview with him in person, and that went well. Like, I answered the questions well. He apparently already checked in with other people prior to my interview. Like, he already did his due diligence, I guess, because he was referencing so many people who I either worked with or came in contact with, and it was nothing but great things that was said about me. And I was, that just took me back. Like, it took me aback. Is that the proper way to say it? But it made me, like, there was a moment last night when I was suddenly just reminded of gifts, the word gifts, right? Your gifts, your purpose. And something I had to really sit back and, like, look at some more. Like, what is my purpose? What are my gifts? And I know I have gifts, and I know I've talked about it to myself before, but I've never written it down. Like, I never concretely had it on paper. Like, these are my gifts. Gifts 1, gifts 2. I never did that. But I know that throughout my teaching career, and especially, in the recent years, I've received so many compliments on how well of a job, not just well, but how, and not to, like, toot my own horn, but, like, I'm damn good at what I do. And I recall during the interview, when he was taking me on a tour around the campus, I was meeting some people who I used to work with, and they were like, yeah, she's great. She's like saying that in my face, saying that emphatically. And it just, I don't know, it was like a stamp. Like, it felt like this affirmation even more. And it's not to say I don't recognize how good I do of, how good of a job I do. Like, I think it's one of those things where it's just, when it comes naturally to you, you don't even realize how great of a job you're doing. It's like, yeah, it's like, whatever. Like, what's the big deal? How? Okay. Like, that's how it is in my head. Yet to see and hear so many people vouch for me, without me paying them, without me giving them a little dick suck. It's a joke. But without me having to do anything extra, right? People were just genuinely vouching for me. People were just genuinely witnessing and being a witness and saying how great of a person I am, how great I do this job, and saying so many different examples of that greatness that, you know, I think instead of like being so mad, and I don't know, I guess instead of being so mad at it or being so, what's the word? Like just pushing it away, I just need to like lean into it. You know, I just think I just need to lean into it. And it's good to have goals. It's good to want more. It's good to be challenged. It's good to grow. And I do think eventually a leadership position will be placed in my lap. Like at this point, I'm done applying. I mean, I'll apply, sure, but like I want things to be placed on my lap. Like that's the next, like I don't want to put any more control into anything else. Like just place it on my fucking lap. Just be like, look, Maxine, I see you're an extraordinary teacher. I will highly recommend you for this AP role, and if you want it, it's yours. That's what I want. That's literally what I want. I would love to manifest that. Because at this point I'm done with applying to the same role. I'm done receiving dead end conversations. Like I place it on my lap, okay, and then I'll consider if I still want it. But yeah, at this point, like, you know, I'm just very open to just this new perspective that I have. Like, look, instead of just being so close from recognize, and I recognize how great I am. I sound so fucking conceited, right? I know I'm the shit. I'm just like no, but you know, I'm happy. Oh, okay. So anyway, the interview went well. At the end of the interview, he offered me the position. He's like, look, I don't usually do this. He said how he interviewed several people for the position, but it didn't work out with any of them. He never offered any of them at the end of the interview the position. He never offered them that. And it's just like I felt very flattered that he offered me the position right on the spot. So that really made me feel good. And I guess it was more confirmation because I remember saying that to my family. I was like, you know, I've only experienced getting job offers right then and there. Like previously, like whether it's like right at the end of the interview from a previous job of mine, I got the job right then and there. Like at the end of the interview, at the last round of the interview, I was offered the position. And with the other job experience I've had, I've gotten the job like the next day. Like they called me or emailed me the next day offering me the position. Like I get jobs quickly. So the experience the past few months of me getting rejected after rejected, I was just, it was a shot to my ego. It was a shot to my self-esteem. And I'm thinking about the fact that, wow, he offered me the position right then and there. Like, I don't know, maybe that's more of a confirmation that I'm where I'm supposed to be. And like everything is happening. Like I'm where I'm supposed to be, you know, because it happens so effortlessly. Like, and though I did prepare for the interview, like I wasn't like very staunch in like preparing. Like I just brushed up on certain responses to say and things like that to make sure I'm standing out. But it flowed really well. It wasn't trying to fit anything. It was flowing really well. So him offering me the position at the end was just in alignment. And you know what? I think though, because I feel like some people may be listening and like, well, Of course he would. Like, you worked there previously. Though I didn't work at that campus, I worked at a different campus. I already have an experience there and yada, yada, yada. And of course, sure, that could be a factor, but I could have bombed, right? Like, I could have presented myself so awfully. Like, I could have, just been completely unprofessional in the interview. I could have not had great responses to anything. Or I could have came in very conceited, like, you gotta give me the role, right? Like, wait, when can I start? Like, I could have just been very full of myself and thinking I already landed the role. So that's what I just made sure I didn't come off as, because one, I didn't necessarily think that, but I also didn't want to come off with that impression, because I want you to know that I do care about, this role and whatever it is. So I just feel like, that was the goal. So anyway, so the meeting went well. He offered me the position, and I accepted. I accepted. And it felt good also to just kind of breathe. My funds are running low. And I have a trip coming up, an international trip coming up. So my head, I was like, look, I really need to land a job before this trip, because though the trip is already paid in full and all of that, I just would like to feel more comfortable in knowing that I have a full-time job, right? Like, so I'm happy that it's covered and taken care of. And benefits, like, I'm gainfully employed. So, like, oh my goodness, I'm gainfully employed. I'm gonna look into my health in regards of just the chronic. Well, I haven't been experiencing chronic pain recently. I'm noticing now that I finally paid more attention, because I try to ignore it when it happens, but I really need to keep track. But I try to ignore it because it's like, this can't be my life. But anyway, I noticed, like, with the pains that I experience with possible endometrial, I'm not sure if it is endo, but I think so based off of the symptoms. I'm not a doctor, so I can't necessarily diagnose myself, but based off of the symptoms and my research, I do think it's endometriosis. And anyway, I feel pain only particularly in my menstruation period. No, but during my menstruation and ovulation. So I think ovulation happens right after your period. I think that's a time frame. But anyway, whether it is or not, I know that right after my period ends, it's like, oh, it's joyous for me, because sometimes my period is just 4 to 5 days, and it's, well, most of the time it's 4 to 5 days. Yeah, all the time it's 4 to 5 days, and it's like exciting, like, great, it's done, no more blood, woo, woo, woo. And then boom, chronic pain back to back, and my back's suddenly hurting. I got these lower abdominal pains, and I got this crank, like this cramp. It's annoying, but it only happens for a few days once my period is over, and that's it. So I'm like, ugh. Either just suck it up and just deal with that for the rest of my life, or I'm sure there's another way for it. So anyway, I've been doing some research, and I think there is a strong medical team located in Boston that I've researched that is focused on endometriosis. So now that I have insurance and I have benefits and all these things, and of course my family back home, I will potentially, if that's the best decision, go ahead and get a laparoscopic surgery to do whatever it needs to do. So that is definitely a goal of mine, just because I would love to not experience this forever. And again, it only really impacts me during my menstruation and right after my blood is gone from my period. So who knows? But yeah, I'm going to be more focused on that and seeing what the best option is. But now that I can finally explore that and really pay attention to it and not just ignore it like I've been doing before when I was gainfully employed, I can finally do it now and figure out what the next steps are. So that's something I'm looking forward to. And yeah, I'm gainfully employed, y'all. And I'm happy about it. I'm open to whatever will be. And I think that's just life. It's a metaphor to life. Look, I've walked you all through this process. Can you thank me now? If you have yet to subscribe to this podcast, do it right now. I've been so transparent. I've been so fucking transparent. Like, what? But anyway, like, I'm really dope. No, sometimes I think to myself, like, damn, am I a narcissist? Am I the narcissist? I'm on a solo podcast, so of course I'm talking about myself. Like, I mean, what else? But yeah, so I'm happy about the decision. I'm happy about just the downloads and the realizations I've been experiencing lately. It's been great, and it doesn't feel like a fight, right? Like, I think, and that's really what it's all about. Like, you should be working a job or whatever it is, however you say it, without it feeling unnatural. Like, it felt natural, you know? Of course, I still do want a leadership position, and we'll see how that goes, but I'm letting myself be open because I do see a lot of great things happening. So let's leave that at that. And the timing was really great too. Anyway, so let me mention this real quick and then we'll move forward from this topic. So after the meeting from that last job, and after I received a phone call from my coworker about this job that I currently got, that I just got, I was talking, my dad called me, and, you know, I've been keeping him up to date about everything. He's been checking in and just been really just amazing. And my mom too, of course. So both of them, they've been very, very amazing and just emotionally supportive. Like, I just, it's been great. It's really been great. Being able to feel comfortable and just sharing everything and not feeling judged or shamed at all. So that's been great. But anyway, so my dad called me, so I'm telling him about what's been going on, and then he tells me about a dream he had. And he was saying how in this dream it was me and him going to this building, and the purpose of us going to this building was for me to submit my job application. And someone in the dream who was working at the building, she said, "Oh, are you Maxine's dad?" And then my dad said, "Yeah." And then she said, "Oh, let her know that she got the job. Tell her that she got the job." And that was it. That was basically it. I'm like, "Great, what?" So he told me that. And he was like, "Yeah, in the dream, the lady said, tell Maxine she got the job." And you know me, I'm looking for details. I'm like, okay, but what job is it? Because there was a couple of jobs I applied to. I've heard from yet. Which job is it? How did the dream look like? Was it at the office? Da, da, da. And he did describe to me that the job was like, or like maybe he just said like the lady who told him, where she told him, like the building was like an office building, of course. So like she's telling my dad that I got the job, but just because she's saying I got the job doesn't mean that the job is at that site in particular, or that I'm at the office. Like, I don't think that really has to be a factor necessarily. It's just me overthinking probably. But anyway, she said I got the job. And my dad told me about that, and that made him feel rest assured, because, of course he's worried and making sure that, I'm able to take care of myself and, I'll be fine. So that made him feel good. And it made me feel good too. But at that time, I didn't get the job yet. Like, I didn't get anything yet. I was still like in the process, of course. But it was in the quick process of what has happened, just recently, So right after that call, the end of the day came. Then the following day, I had a phone call with the principal, the new principal, whatever, and that went well. And then I had the interview today, and I got the job. I got the job. So I got the job. And I think the timing was actually well on time. I think the timing really meant like I got this job, right? Like, because all the other interviews I've had, all the other applications that I put in, not once did my dad tell me about a dream he had about someone telling him that I got the job, right? So I think it's an alignment with the fact that I did get the job, and it happened, boom, within a day of my dad telling me, or 2 days of my dad telling me about his dream. So I thought that was interesting. And, you know, I'm very much into like, you know, stuff like that, mystic stuff, mysticism. So that made me feel rest assured. But I didn't go into the interview thinking like, oh, it's mine, right? Because, you know, anything could happen. And I wasn't trying to like, you know, just put my foot in my mouth by coming in there very like overly confident to the point I'm arrogant. So I'm glad I was still humble, but yet confident in who the fuck I am, because I know who the fuck I am. All right, let's move on. I got the job. We're done with these topics of job and journey. I mean, maybe I'll still continue it as far as, you know, any updates, of course. But I think it's been a great transparent moment, because again, I feel like we don't have enough conversations of just the ebbs and flows of going through a career change or a potential or desired career change, and recognizing that it's not a linear process. It's very up and down. You know, there's peaks and valleys when applying to new jobs, and having to realize that, this didn't work out. This didn't go as smoothly as I thought. And like having to realize, okay, it's probably for the best, it's definitely for the best to go back to where you left and just pick it up from there. And I think it all needed to happen this way, probably because had I not left my previous campus, I would not have had the opportunity to work at this new campus in which there are career advancement opportunities. And I remember hearing from someone saying that oftentimes when you desire for advancement in your career, right, a promotion, it oftentimes takes place elsewhere. Like sometimes it doesn't happen at the specific site that you've been working at. And this is specific for school workers, right? I think, you know, for other types of, I don't know if it's different for corporate, whatever, but like, you know, within a school, there's different campuses, there's different sites, there's different buildings you may go to and work at. And what does seem to be the trend is if you would like to promote in your career, it's oftentimes the opportunity is present at a different campus, which is interesting, right? Like, I think that's weird, right? Like, I would have loved to have stayed where I was because I've already built the relationships there. I'm already comfortable there. Like, but you know me, I don't like to be too comfortable. I really don't. I don't like to be stagnant. And I remember my principal at the time, she said how she wants me to really spread my wings and let everyone know who I am, because she was saying how like I sound so conceited, I'm so great. But no, she was recognizing how great I am and how great of a job I am, or but how great of a job I do. And she was making it clear that you need to shine. Like, you shouldn't stay contained in this space, and if an opportunity arises at a different campus, basically accept it and, you know, go for it from there. So I'm happy where I am. I'm happy that I did that. You know, I'll be gaining new relationships, just new opportunities to grow. So I love that. And I'm glad that I do have a coworker there who I worked with previously, and we already have a great relationship. So I'm happy with that. But I like the opportunity to start new. Like, you know, like I like the opportunity to start anew, to be fresh, to recreate who I am type of thing. I mean, am still who I am, but like I like the opportunity of really reintroducing myself or introducing myself for the first time to the people on this campus, and them, you know, creating new relationships and getting to know new people, because it's an opportunity to really like, okay, I'm gonna do things different this time around. Because I think about the relationship that I've cultivated at my previous campus, and though I value those relationships and we're still friends to this day, like we still hang out, like we hung out recently for one of my coworkers' birthday, and that was a great time. I'm really happy I went and supported her, and it was a really good time. But I also recognize that sometimes I blurry the lines between relationship, like professional relationship, and inappropriate relationship. I don't know. Because I do think like we have to recognize that, sure, if you working 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week with, the same group of people, eventually relationships will cross the line, right? And I'm talking about like sexually, I'm talking, maybe people are just too comfortable with you and they'll say any willy-nilly thing, or maybe you overshared with coworkers and you're realizing like, shit, I already overshared with these people. I can't take it back. And it's natural though, right? Because sometimes, you go to happy hour. Like I've been to happy hour many a times with, that group of, the group, and shared a lot. Like it was an emotional time. And when I started at that position there at that campus, I was at a different point in my life. I just moved to Houston and I just left a previous job at that time. And I was yearning for a connection and just relationships with just like people, not necessarily a romantic relationship. It was just like, I just want to be friends with people. I just want to, I was wanting for that. And I think though, in wanting that so desperately and just so badly, not desperately, but like, just so much, I was yearning for that. I probably overshared. Not probably. I definitely overshared in some instances. I definitely let lines be blurred. Things happen. Like, when I think about, for example, Ime Udoka, not to say, and whatever, I don't care, but like Ime Udoka, how he had a sexual relationship with a female coworker. These things happen. Like, people have work wives, and that's not their real legal wife, right? People have work husbands, and that's not their real legal husband. Like, people have these relationships with people who they work with because they see them more than they see their significant other. Right? Like, and at this point, if you don't have a significant other, like, you really believe like, oh, you're my significant other. You really believe, no, we're in a relationship. Like, no, we're coworkers. Anyway, so like, there's like, just lines get blurred. Yeah, lines get blurry. And now I have the opportunity to start anew, to not do that, to really keep things how they should be kept. And it's not to say that the door is closed. It's not to say, like, I'm not trying to say that, right? Like, I still want to have strong relationships with whom I'm working with whom I'm working. But just be mindful of what I say, be mindful of the drink that I'm drinking or how much I'm drinking during the happy hour, being mindful of how many happy hours I attend. Like we could be cool, but we don't have to be close. Like I don't have to be, like, I think there's a time for it, and I'm very much, take your time. Like, we don't have to be close within the first 2 days. Like, eventually it could grow. And of course, I'm open to new friendships, but let's be coworkers first, if anything. And if something, if it naturally progresses into a friendship, then cool. But still, let's have some boundary here or there. Anyway, I'm just so excited that I have new opportunities, new campus, a fresh slate Is this late? Yeah, all these opportunities to really kind of tell you who I am, I could introduce myself, and that's pretty cool to me. So I'm excited about that. Okay, let's move on. I'm done with this topic. But and also I just but yeah, I'm gainfully employed, bitch. Finally. Okay. Disowning your kids. Let's get into that. Yo, these topics, huh? Okay, let's just say, look, parent and children relationships are difficult, right? It's complex. I'm not saying difficult. It's complex. And especially if you're an adult child, I don't know. I look at things very differently, maybe coming from just a Caribbean background, a Haitian background in particular. I always look at, and of course, like when I was younger, that wasn't always the case. Like I had my challenges with my parents, and I definitely tried to override their authority. So those things happen naturally, but for the most part, I was very respectful of elders, of parents, like of my parents. Like I carry that to this day. Like I don't care who you are. If you're an elder, I'm going to revere you. I'm going to show you respect because you are 65 years old. Like you deserve it. Like you've been living here for 65 years. Like you deserve respect. Like I don't know. I just look at things very differently when it comes to elders, when it comes to just the older generation. Like I really respect them. I really feel like they deserve respect, like period. And you don't even have to have any close relation to me. I'm gonna respect you. I remember a former friend of mine, her parents were in town, and she wanted me, as well as a few of our mutual friends at the time, because they're not friends anymore, but to meet her parents. And so we had dinner, and I was just so like, oh, let me talk to you. Like, I just really I'm very respectful. So I was at the dinner, really like engaged with her parents, listening to them, engaged in a conversation. Like it was a mutual thing. Yet she noticed that I was like being great, because I'm fucking great. And she noticed that some of the other girls were not as attentive or I guess respectful or caring or considerate in how they interacted with her parents. And she just had some feelings about that she expressed to me about, but I don't think she expressed it to the other ladies directly. But either way, she pointed out, like she recognized that I was really respectful and just really intentional and caring about conversing with her parents. And it's like, yeah, of course. Like, what? Of course. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, these are your parents. Of course I'm going to respect them. Of course, like, these are parents. These are this is an elder generation. This is, of course, like, there's no other way to look at it in my head. Anyway, so I was respecting them, and that, that's just how I am. So anyway, when I think about 50 Cent and his older son, and his oldest son, Marquise, I think there are instances when you can disown your child. Look, I know we can't say that, and it's probably not acceptable, but the way that Marquise is disrespecting his father, yeah, you're disowned. And I do notice, though, that it's more common for fathers to do that, which I don't know, that's a thing. But, here's the thing, though. Like, fathers, yes, it takes two to tango, right? It takes two people, a male and a female, to come together and make life. But if you really think about it, the life really begins. I was watching something, and it talked about how the life begins with the sperm. If you don't have the sperm, you can't, like, you don't need to, like, there is no life. And of course, yes, you need the womb well, you don't really need the womb. Like, there's different, like, things I don't know, but that's something that I came across. Someone else said it much more articulate than how I'm saying it, but just look that up. Who said that? What? I don't know. I watch so many different podcasts, but someone was saying that, like, yeah, life really, people like to say, because, like, of course, the woman is carrying the baby and pushing the baby out. And, you know, that's why we get so, you know, the public gets so upset when women don't have a choice to kill their babies. Anyway, but, excuse me, the point is the sperm is the one really responsible for the life, something like that. Anyway, what I'm saying is 50 Cent and just fathers in general, their attachment to said child isn't the same as mothers. And that's just biological, right? Like, you could still love your kid, of course, right? Like, but it's literally in your nature as a woman, you know, unless you got PTSD or postpartum, to be more attached to the child rather than the father. They could just up and leave, which is not okay. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay to abandon your child. I hope it's not coming off like that. But I'm saying, like, it's easier for the father to do so. That's why it's so frowned upon and disgusting and seen as so immoral for mothers to abandon their children. Because it's like, whoa, the children literally came out of you. Like, the child came out of you. Like, you literally gave birth to the child. How can you abandon whom you've given birth to, right? As for a father's not giving birth, right? A father could be there or not. And yes, I still agree with, like, you know, traditional style parenting as far as, like, you know, father and mother figure. I think all that is still relevant and needed. But what I'm saying is, it's easier to be abandoned by a father. It's easier for a father to abandon his child than a mother to abandon her child. I hope this is making sense to somebody out there. If you get it, let me know you get it. But anyway, so 50 Cent has disowned his child, Marquise, who's now 25 years old. And just a series of events this episode should be called Series of Events. But a series of events has taken place, and it's really making me side with the father. Now, look, again, I'm not condoning disowning your children or, you know, abandoning your children. But at this point, the way Marquise is trolling his dad is actually very disrespectful. And again, it speaks to just who fucking raised you. Like, how can you not have reverence for your parent? You know, or like, just don't talk about, like, if you don't like your father, if you don't like your mother, have a space to discuss that, not online, right? Have a space to discuss that, not on a podcast or, you know, on an Instagram live. Like, I don't know, like, there should be some, like, parameters around how you discuss your parent at the very least. And, you know, at the end of the day, I blame the mother. I do. It's always a woman's fault. No, I think it is. I do. I think it's the mom's fault. Like, how dare you? First of all, I think she brainwashed him into believing how awful 50 Cent is. And I'm sure 50 Cent has had his flaws in this relationship with his son. But I feel like, as the mother, you should be mature enough to tell your son you still don't get you still don't get the right to disrespect your father. You should still respect him. You should set the grounds for that. So it really says a lot about the mother. You know, why aren't you better rearing your child? You know, why is your child thinking this is okay or appropriate or becoming of a man? Like, you are actually a punk. So I blame the mother. Marquise is definitely to blame as well. And I just feel like he comes from this place of just pure ignorance, pure entitlement. Like, it's just a plethora of things. Like, so anyway, so he's upset about, he starts talking about the child support that he has received throughout the years. Mind you, he's 25. Child support ends, I heard two things. Child support ends once you graduate college and or once you graduate, or once you become 18. So considering he went to college, so that's 22, right? If he's doing everything on time. or considering it actually did end when he was 18. Either way, some time has passed. He's 25 years old, and for him to start having these like blow-ups online about how the $6,700 that he has received monthly from his father was not enough. What? Like, are you even like, are you okay? You know how many people I would love that. Six, okay, because that's equivalent to, how was that? I think that's $85 a year, I believe. That's a goal for me. Okay, like eventually I want to get to that point where, okay, I'm making that monthly. And so for him to just say that so flippantly, and he's using the excuse of, well, I live in New York City. You know how hard it is. And look, yes, New York City is expensive as hell, right? You paying $3,000 for a shoebox of an apartment. I just don't understand. Like, I get it, the whole like the hype of New York City, but like at the end of the day, it's really not worth it. Like, come the fuck on. But anyway, he's saying, oh, $6,700 a month is not enough. How much do you expect to get? Or how much? I wish he would have quantified it, because he kept on saying it wasn't enough. I wish he would have said what would have been enough. And he never said that. He never said the number that would have been satisfactory for him, because he doesn't know what he's talking about. Instead, he's just finding more ways to try to make his father look bad, but it actually blew up in his face. He actually is the one who looks bad, because it's like everyone who responded to him when he was on this Instagram live, he was speaking to one person in particular, and he was like, yo, man, yeah, you could definitely survive off of $6,700 a month. Like, that doesn't, you're not fucking, like, what? And he doesn't have any kids. He's not like, I just don't understand. And then I feel like also just poor money management. You know, I think because he didn't manage, or maybe his mother. And also what I learned is the child support. Apparently the father and the mother put money towards the support. So it's not just only $6,700 he was living off of, which is fine, actually, more than fine. But his mother's support is an additional support. Like, I don't know, it's like something just doesn't make sense. Like, how are you upset about this number when this number is definitely satisfactory? And again, look, I think everything is, of course, what's the word? Subjective, right? Like, you know, depending on your lifestyle. But like, again, you have to live according to your means. And maybe he was trying to live beyond a $6,700 monthly lifestyle, and that leads to him feeling entitled into wanting more. It's just stupid. It's really stupid. And again, this like brings up the history of their relationship, and we see years ago that their relationship has already been strained, and Marquise has already been talking just greasy towards his father. And I feel like regardless of whatever your father, I mean, not regardless, there are some instances, I guess, but like, I don't know, I just don't understand, like, what happened, like, you know, like, what happened between the relationship for Marquise to have reacted the way, or for him to still be reacting the way that he is? Like, what is going on for him to, you know, what provoked this? You know, what is this? And nothing hasn't really been said about that. He just comes off as like just a brat. And, you know, 50 Cent is he's very childish, right? He's not, there's so many instances of him just being so petty, like beyond petty. So I think regardless of him being his son, 50 Cent is still petty. And he has already disowned him. He's already created a new son. Like, he has another son, and he's heavily involved in that son's life, apparently. And he has moved on. And now you have Marquise being this just airhead talking about $6,700 is not enough. It is very weird. It's very weird. So I asked the question, you know, when is it appropriate to disown your kid? When is enough? You know, like, when maybe the responsible answer is, well, you should just be patient and understanding that a kid is ignorant. And look, I think patience and understanding should take place in the kid's formative years, right? Like if your kid, even adolescent years as well, like, you know how when you're a teenager, you typically act out. You're typically rebellious. You're typically trying to challenge your parents, and it becomes just intense. That's typical. That's normal. And those instances when it's expected and when it just comes with raging hormones and I don't know who I am, you know, those moments, then you definitely should show grace, right? Because your child doesn't even know if they're, you know, am I a young boy or am I a man? Like, oh, I'm not growing facial hair as fast as my friends. Am I a man enough? Like, they go through those moments. That's real. So have grace, have patience, and have understanding during those years. But if you are a grown-ass adult and you're still behaving foolishly and disrespectfully towards your father, who has supported you, maybe begrudgingly, but who has supported you nonetheless, let's have some fucking respect. Like, you could just not have a relationship with him. Just don't talk about him. Like, let's move on. Like, move on with your life. Move on with your life. So I just feel, I don't know. I just feel like it's just a weird relationship. I think ultimately the mother is to blame because she should have set her foot down from the beginning. Like, you will not disrespect your father. I know that we're not together anymore, but that doesn't mean you have to disrespect him at all. Like, that is just ridiculous. So I think she is to blame. She probably brainwashed him into thinking that he's this awful person simply because she's bitter and upset that their relationship didn't work. Like, it could be one of those things where I'm going to make sure that your son hates you just as much as I hate you. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, why can't we just end our relationship and it not have to affect our child? Like, what? So, and unfortunately, you have a lot of mothers who behave that way. And eventually you have the child growing into their own opinion about their father and realizing, oh, my mom was just bitter. You know, I do want to have a relationship with you. I was wrong for what I said. I didn't know. I was ignorant to it. You know, let's just have our separate relationship. So, you know, maybe one day 50 Cent and Marquise could come to that point. But at this point, yeah, disown that kid. Disown him. Be done with it. And then Marquise talking about, there's a recent video of him saying, like, he just wish that he had a relationship with his dad. Like, suddenly he's playing this whole victim card. Like, what are you talking about? One second you talking about you're entitled. You wrote it out with cash on Instagram. And then you leave a caption talking about he'll pay his dad $6,700, which is the amount that he received from his dad monthly. He'll pay him that amount if he spends a day with him. Like, he's playing this card of, I'm a victim, my dad abandoned me. You're like, shut up. What the fuck? I'll abandon you too, nigga. At this point, some kids need to be abandoned. All right, I'm going to end the episode here. Thank you so much for listening, you all. I appreciate every listen. Be sure to leave a review, like, share, comment, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Anchor if you haven't yet. And of course, be sure to leave a review, like and share with a friend, to tell a friend, to tell a friend, and check out the content on Patreon for exclusive episodes. I'll check in with you guys next time. Peace. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of God Built This Podcast with your host, Maxine. Be sure to leave a review, give me 5 stars, and of course, subscribe. Also, follow God Built This Podcast on Instagram at God Built This Pod. God bless.